Hi, I'm Sarah Taylor, and today I want to talk about cultivating compassionate awareness through the heart and how it can help you when you are confronted with your painful conditioning, masking strategies. It can help you to heal and to integrate and to awaken more deeply to your true nature. So I work as an intuitive energy healer and an awakening trail guide. And I make these videos because they're the videos I needed years ago when I was going through a non-dual awakening. And they're rooted in my personal experience as well as my experience helping hundreds of people over the years with their spiritual path. And if you're a late diagnosed neurodivergent person, you'll definitely want to stick around because I'm going to talk about masking strategies and how that fits into all of this. I am a late diagnosed ADHD woman. That means I'm autistic and ADHD. So let's dive in. 'Tis the season to put on itchy clothing and go hang out with coworkers and family members and to watch yourself get riled up about stuff or to engage in habitual patterning that you're like, wait, I thought I was farther along the spiritual path. What's going on? Why am I acting like this? Why did I just say that? Compassion. I know. You've heard be compassionate a lot. Cultivate compassion. Well, what does that actually mean? How is that in action? So you're not your conditioning. You're not your masking strategies. You are the compassionate awareness that notices them and holds space for what arises. It's one thing to be aware of your conditioning, your patterns, your masking when it arises, and it's another for it to be compassionate awareness. And so holding whatever is arising with compassion for yourself, for everybody involved, for you at 3 years old or 5 or 8 or 15, whenever you first came up with that adaptive strategy that's now rearing its head at the office party or, at Christmas dinner or something. Compassion for who you were back then, that little being that you were. Because look, masking strategies, conditioning, habitual responses, they arose out of compassion. Maybe misguided. They had their use at one point in time, but then they kept getting repeated over and over again thanks to neural pathways, and the whole system got conditioned and was like, this is how I respond when this happens. But it arose out of compassion to keep you safe, to make sure you're okay. And so what an incredible body-mind system we have. What incredible creatures we are that this conditioning got created in the first place. You've just been doing the best that you could this whole time. So when you notice your conditioning arising, if you can lean back and hold a space for it with compassion and be the compassionate awareness that notices the conditioning, because you're not your conditioning, you're not the habit, then we can deepen more deeply into the heart. And why is the heart so important on this path? Well, a non-dual awakening, a mature non-dual awakening, involves the heart coming online, really blossoming and becoming so vast that everything is included and everything is welcome. You might not like everything that arises, but there's an allowance, an acceptance. And that is an act of compassion. Now, some people have a non-dual awakening and the heart hasn't completely come online yet. It can happen. It actually happens more than you think, where you may have had a realization that inside and outside are not two, and that may have actually collapsed in your experience. You may have had a very profound seeing, a realization that you and I are not separate, that you're not separate from God, life, source, universe, that nothing is separate, that everything is interconnected and interwoven into the one thingless thing. It's all the oneness. But it's just the beginning if the heart hasn't come online, which is this compassionate, in love with what arises. It's a love affair with form and with emptiness. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. It's all one thing in this incredible dance. And so wherever you're at on the path, if you haven't had a non-dual realization, if you have had a non-dual glimpse or realization, or you're deep into unity, this will be your go-to. I mean, just remembering like, oh yeah, this too gets to be here. That is an act of compassion of such magnitude. And you'll notice that people really respond to it too, if you have this sense of allowance for them to be however they are. So what do you do if you don't feel like being compassionate, if it's not naturally arising, and you see your responses, your habitual tendencies coming up, with other people? It's usually when it happens. What if you don't feel like being compassionate? What if it's not natural? What if you're like, no, I don't want to be compassionate? Well, then you hold space for the resistance to being compassionate as well. You open and soften with your own resistance, which could be rooted in fear. Probably is. So having compassion for the part of you that's afraid. Because we welcome all these parts on board. It's like a reverse Russian doll, like you encounter some situation and you soften and open. You encounter the situation again and there's resistance. Okay, great. Can I open to the resistance? Can I allow? Opening sounds too active and there's no action towards opening wants to even happen. Can I allow resistance to be here? Yeah, I can allow resistance. My conditioning, my painful response, the painful feelings, and the resistance are here at the same time. And you are the space in which it's happening, this great allowance. And that is an act of compassion. And so we just keep opening, softening, allowing more and more and more to resistances, to misperceptions, to misunderstandings, to confusion. And so that can really deepen your awakening. And look, it might naturally be occurring anyway, because that happens with a very profound non-dual awakening. But don't think that, your awakening wasn't very deep or you didn't really have an awakening if you really bump up against some conditioning that's really chunky, because that will happen. And you can bless it and say, thank you for arising, because this too needs to be seen and held. If you're a late diagnosed neurodivergent person, masking is like extra conditioning that we've been carrying. We not only have our reactive patterning, but we have certain ways of being in the world so that people don't think we're weird. Little social masking etiquette and things that we do, look, a lot of it is really harmless and we may continue to do it. We're not identified with it. It's not who we are. It doesn't limit our freedom. We're just doing it. We're aware of that. It's okay. The masking that is painful, where you don't feel you're really having your authentic reactions, your authentic expression. You may go into the holiday dinner wanting to totally unmask with mom and dad and all your siblings, but having compassion for yourself, is that going to be the most compassionate thing for you and for them, but for you? And so to go slow. Go slow with unmasking around the holiday season or, whenever. Go slow. You don't have to unmask all at once you realize that you've been masking your whole life. And definitely don't, come down on yourself for noticing the masking. Be the compassionate space that notices the masking. And find safe spaces to totally unmask this holiday season or whenever you're watching this video. It applies for any time of the year. If you have a lot of things that you have to show up for in a week, work functions, family things, obligations, and there's been a lot of masking, make time with that friend where you can just be like you, with all your quirks and your weirdnesses. So all of this is an act of compassion, and I wish you much luck with practicing this type of open-hearted awareness. And if you like what you watched, listen to, if it was helpful, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And be sure to subscribe and to hit the bell to be alerted about upcoming videos. And thanks for watching.